Hello and welcome to another OPN update. I'm Timothy Shea with MAGA Institute. They say that the internet is Satan's plaything, and that may be, but yesterday the internet allowed the name of Jesus Christ to be proclaimed loudly and proudly to over 100 million people and counting. Those are just the streams that they've been able to collect so far, and that is only the live audience. That doesn't include all the replays, all the shorts, the clips, the reels. Yesterday's memorial service to Charlie Kirk filled not only a football stadium, but an entire planet. His legacy will certainly live on. One of the most refreshing things was to see their faith. Let's listen to JD. Let's go to stop one.
Brought millions of people into advocacy. He asked of us, not just that we talk about saving our country, but that we actually go and do it, and we do it together. But even as Charlie built on a grand scale, his greatness was never only in his ambition. It was measured in the everyday moments as well, in the way that he treated ordinary people each and every single day. You know, you learn a lot about someone by how they treat others when the cameras aren't on. Charlie treated staffers as well as he treated the President of the United States. When I was just a guy polling at nothing in my Senate race back in 2021, Charlie helped me, not because I was a future vice president, but because I was a dear friend. I saw just a couple of months ago when a White House staffer struggled with the weight of his job and the responsibilities of new fatherhood. Charlie stopped what he was doing in the hallways of the West Wing and said a prayer for that staffer. Because Charlie believed that we were all children of God, he treated everyone with grace. And that is perhaps the enduring legacy of Charlie Kirk. You know, I was telling somebody backstage that I always felt a little uncomfortable talking about my faith in public as much as I loved the Lord and as much as it was an important part of my life. I have talked more about Jesus Christ in the past 2 weeks than I have my entire time in public life. And that is an undeniable legacy of the great Charlie Kirk. You know, he loved God. And because he loved God, he wanted to understand God's creation and the men and women made in his image. Now, much has been said over the last week about Charlie's ability to approach any topic, any person in good faith, an achievement that was
And there you have it. You can see JD speaking to the impact that Charlie had. And they had to kill him before he became Catholic. Charlie said to a friend just recently, very shortly before his death, "I'm very close." And unfortunately, it was Pope Francis that kept Charlie from converting, which, as a cradle Catholic, I can completely understand. Pope Francis wasn't a man to lead people to the church. Charlie certainly would have. He would have led tens of millions back to Christ Church. He died wearing a St. Michael's medal, and for non-Catholics, St. Michael we call on in the St. Michael prayer. We say it after every Mass. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Guard us from the wickedness and snares of the devil. It's a beautiful prayer. If you don't know it, you should learn it. That medal was splattered with Charlie's blood on the day he was martyred. Erica wears it now as a reminder of her husband and in the last full measure of devotion that he gave. We do pray for people that they will find their way to the fullness of the faith that we enjoy. But yesterday, there's absolutely no question but that Jesus was there and the Holy Ghost was acting, not only upon the 80,000 in the stadium, but as I said, over 100 million worldwide. And the president is getting a little bit of pushback. Some people are saying he should have let Erica go last. Yeah, well, the protocol is that the president always speaks last. So could he have broken the protocol? Sure. But we're going to get to Erica's speech in just a minute. My take was that just as if you go to a championship boxing match, what people don't realize is that the title fight is not the last fight of the night. The last fight of the night is two palookas that are there boring, just punching, bobbing and weaving, not exciting. It's called the cool down fight. It's to cool the crowd down, let the emotions subside. And Erica's speech had everybody so emotional that I think the president came on. I don't want to say comic relief. I'm not going to insult him like that, but his speech let people know it was okay to laugh again. It was okay to speak with joy and not tears again about Charlie. Let's take a listen. SOT 2.
The brightest lights of our times, a giant of his generation, and above all, a devoted husband, father, son, Christian, and patriot. Charles James Kirk was heinously murdered by a radicalized, cold-blooded monster for speaking the truth that was in his heart. He was violently killed because he spoke for freedom and justice, for God, country, for reason, and for common sense. He was assassinated because he lived bravely, he led boldly, and he argued brilliantly without apology. He did what was right for our nation. And so on that terrible day, September 10th, 2025, our greatest evangelist for American liberty became immortal. He's a martyr now for American freedom. I know I speak for everyone here today when I say that none of us will ever forget Charlie Kirk, and neither now will history. Because while Charlie has been reunited with his Creator in heaven, his voice on earth will echo through the generations, and his name will live forever in the eternal chronicle of America's greatest patriots. He will live forever. To Charlie's incredible and beautiful widow, Erica, we know the weight of this monumental loss is almost unbearable. But even in the midst of heartache and pain too great to even fathom, you have somehow found the strength and deep faith to be a comfort to millions and millions of people. And thank you very much, Erica. Thank you very much.
And Charlie, the president went on from there to tell some funny stories about Charlie. But we're going to cut right now to the live feed from the West Wing. The president is making the big announcement that we've all been waiting for about autism.
Don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all, but if you have to, if you can't tough it out, or if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby loaded up with stuff, you'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and the 3 should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate, because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it 4 for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country. The FDA will be updating the label of an existing drug to reflect potential benefits in reducing some autism symptoms. This gives hope to the many parents with autistic children that it may be possible to improve their lives. That's one of the things that I'm very, very happy about. I mean, this was mostly going to be on how not to have the child affected, but we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better, and in some cases maybe substantially better. Not going to be easy, but be a lot easier if it didn't happen in the first place, as these great parents fully understand, right? They fully understand. I feel so terribly for.
Okay, the president's going to go on for some time.
It's a tough situation. Finally, to help reach the ultimate goal of ending the autism fever, the NIH will be announcing 13 major grant awards from the Autism Data Science Initiatives. And to be honest with you, to me, that's the least important. It's not even a money thing at this point. There's so much money, but they have to do, and they have to move quickly. When the alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. But with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. And if you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one, because there's no alternative to that. Sadly, first question, what can you take instead? It's actually, there's not an alternative to that. And as you know, other of the medicines are absolutely proven bad. I mean, they've been proven bad with the aspirins and the Advils and others, right? And they've been proven bad. So I'd like to ask Bobby to get up to the podium and say a few words, and then Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. McCary, Dr. Oz, Dr. Fink, followed by two incredible mothers that have experienced firsthand what this country is going through, what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol, and they have virtually no autism, okay? Tell me about that one. And there are other parts of the world where they don't have Tylenol, where they don't have autism. That tells you a lot. And I want to say it right now. And you know, the way I look at it, don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it. So I'd like to ask Bobby to come up and say a few words. I hope I didn't ruin his day, but that's the way I feel. I've been very strong on the subject for a long time. You know, life is common sense, too. And there's a lot of common sense in this, and I wish things like this were brought up, and this group has worked so hard on it, but I'd like to be a little bit more, a little speedier in the process of a recommendation, because there's no harm in going quicker. There's absolutely no harm. At worst, there's no harm. Thank you very much. Bobby, please.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, Ken, thanks very much.
To meet the president's...
It's very interesting that they're talking about Tylenol, acetaminophen. My brother was unfortunately had a high fever back in the 1970s. It was caused by a virus, and naturally, my parents gave him aspirin. That's what you do for a fever, right? Well, they found out subsequently that giving children aspirin after a viral infection can trigger something called Reye syndrome. My brother got that, and he fell into a coma, had a 50-50 chance of surviving, and thank heaven he did. And the only reason he was saved is because my mother rushed him to the hospital because a little boy in our parish had died of Reye syndrome just a month prior to my brother falling ill. And she saw the same symptomology, saw the same pattern. So we can't take aspirin with a high fever. And now it turns out, looks like Tylenol might be problematic with the high fever as well. And as the president said, there's really no good alternative for a high fever, and except maybe an ice bath, which I had to endure during the Asian flu back in 1968. That's an interesting connection between something we think of as relatively innocuous, acetaminophen, Tylenol. It's the safest thing out there, right? Well, maybe, maybe not. And I think the president's advice to separate the MMR is judicious, although medical friends tell me that the MMR is not the problem, that the real problem that they see in their practice, one nurse practitioner told me that she sees the impact being the DTaP, the diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis. That's another vaccine that needs to be looked at. And the president's exactly correct. The number of injections has skyrocketed since the 1986 law that shielded the vaccine manufacturers from legal liability. I think that's something else they're going to be looking at. People have been saying to me, I can't believe he's only going to be talking about acetaminophen and spreading out the vaccines. I can't believe he's not going to be talking about the vaccines himself. Well, he just said no mercury, no aluminum, all these adjuvants. There's not been a single study, not one, where the control group was physiological saline. All the studies that they tout is saying that the vaccines are safe and effective because the number of adverse events with the control group was roughly the same as with the vaccine. It's because the control group wasn't physiological saline. It was everything in the vaccine except for the protein, the antigen. So you had all the aluminum, all the mercury, all the everything else, the polypropylene glycol, all the bad stuff that was causing the problem was in the control group too. So of course you weren't going to see a difference in negative outcomes because you're giving the same poison to both groups. I told them all to be patient, that I think that if they came out with the entire picture all at once, there'd be an absolute run on pediatrician offices. I think you'd see parents with pitchforks and torches going after these doctors and after these pharmaceutical companies. I think we're going to see subsequent announcements and subsequent revelations and subsequent changes in law and medical practice as we progress down this road. Thank you, Kent, for bringing us that update from the West Wing. I want to finish today with two things. First, let's get back to the memorial of Charlie Kirk's. Erica Kirk did something that Jesus Christ himself called for, and yet it's one of the most difficult things to do if you are a Christian, and that's to forgive your enemies. And it's right there in the Lord's Prayer. Tucker talked to this also. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. That we have to seek forgiveness only after we've forgiven those who've done ill toward us. Let's look at Sot 3. Powerful moment.
That young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us. The world needs Turning Point USA. It needs a group that will point young people away from the path of misery and sin. It needs something that will lead people away from hell in this world and in the next. It needs young people pointed in the direction of truth and beauty. And so I promise you today, every part of our work will become greater. I am tremendously honored to be the new CEO of Turning Point USA. I do not take that lightly.
And there you have it. Turning Point will continue. I was to meet Charlie in December. I look forward to meeting Erica now at AmFest in Phoenix. I think that not only will Turning Point USA continue, it will grow. It will become a worldwide organization in every country. And I don't think it's hyperbole to say that it might just be the antidote to the Islamicization of the West, to the globalization of the West, an antidote to all the forces of evil that are trying to tear down our civilization. Elon Musk was interviewed on the floor yesterday, and they asked him why he thought Charlie was shot, and he said Charlie was shot because he was bringing people to the light. And so the dark killed him. Well, the darkness saw the light and could not comprehend it. And we know for a fact that the light will win. Unfortunately, the light didn't win with ABC. We had a small victory. We actually got the left, the likes of Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell and all of these wackadoos, to boycott Disney. Disney's support of the pedophile agenda didn't do it. Disney's support of the trans-fascist agenda didn't do it. But affiliates saying they weren't going to carry Jimmy Kimmel's hate-filled show anymore, that did it. And the left went crazy. Censorship. It's like, no, it's not censorship. It wasn't the government that did it. It wasn't Donald Trump that did it. You have absolute freedom of speech in this country, as long as you're not making threats of violence or inciting others to commit acts of violence, as long as you're not yelling fire in a crowded movie theater, as long as you're not endangering the social order, the general welfare. There's no such thing as hate speech legally, or at least there shouldn't be. I advocate getting rid of all hate crime laws. The penalty faced by the criminal shouldn't depend on what flavor the victim is. Shouldn't matter what race, creed, religion, sexual preference the victim was. There's no such thing as a kind, gentle, and loving rape, murder, or aggravated assault. I continually, for decades, have called for the repeal of hate crime laws. All crime is hate crime. But there's no such thing legally as hate speech. Morally and ethically, absolutely. I can say hateful things. But the government can't arrest me for them. And that's not what happened to Jimmy. Jimmy wasn't censored. Jimmy's First Amendment rights were not violated by the government. No. Jimmy fooled around, and Jimmy found out. Actions have consequences in the marketplace. That was a market response, Jimmy. That wasn't a government response. And unfortunately, as we see in this graphic, Jimmy's going to be back tomorrow night. People are upset by it. I'm not. Number one, he has almost no audience. Number two, just give him more rope. You know, he'll eventually hang himself. He can't help it. It's who he is. He is a dark, demonic, very twisted man. We should pity Jimmy Kimmel, not hate him. That's what Charlie would have done. Charlie would have said, there goes a sad and broken man. We should pray for him. And pray we will, Jimmy. And I'll admit, it does give me a small measure of satisfaction knowing that will annoy you no end that we are praying for you. That's it for today's OPN update. I'm Timothy Shea with MAGA Institute. Stay tuned for this channel for more updates as conditions require. Until next time, God bless you. God bless these United States. Keep fighting the good fight.